Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and I'm not wearing a kimono for this video, but I thought about it. For a bit of context here, last year when I reviewed Azerbaijan's song for Eurovision, I wore a kimono because it was kind of relevant to the song. Well, this year I'm once again reviewing Azerbaijan's song for Eurovision, and it's the same artist, and kind of the same MO in a matter of speaking, but I wanted to switch it up a bit, and this shirt technically has a hole in the elbow, but I refuse to admit it because I don't want to acknowledge that my wardrobe isn't as new as it used to be. But calming down and focusing on the subject at hand, Azerbaijan this year will, just like last year, be represented by Ms. Samira Efendieva, just abbreviated to Samira Efendi, or just Efendi if you have no time whatsoever, and this year the song Matahari. Which, you might hear that and think, oh, that sounds like words in a language that I don't know, but it is in fact the name of a person. Matahari was a spy/exotic dancer from, like, World War I, I think. I am not fully up on the details, but that's more or less the gist of it. This year, the song is performed completely in English, apart from a few words of Azeri or Azerbaijani. I don't actually know what the correct word is, but the point is Azerbaijan's bringing some of their national language for the first time ever. It's not very many words, but we are so glad to hear it nonetheless. But yeah, just to sort of preempt anything else I say in this video, I've been operating under the assumption that Azerbaijani refers to the people and Azeri refers to the language. If that's wrong, I do apologise in advance. Feel free to correct me if you're more informed about it than I am. I would love to hear from you. Anyway, music and lyrics by Amy van der Velde, Tony Cornelissen, Luke van Beers, and Josh Earl. So, admittedly, Azerbaijan outsourcing, as they tend to do sometimes, but I mean, why fix what isn't broken, I guess? Or is it broken? Let's just get on with the review. I don't know where I'm going with all these random theatrics. Right then, first impressions. Well, I've referred to a few entries this year as sounding like sequels to their cancelled 2020 counterparts, but this seems to be the truest and most direct instance of that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But seriously, this song is of the same flavour, the same general idea, likening Efendi to a famous historical figure. It hits more or less the same beats, it even name drops Cleopatra. I'm aware this is sounding a little bit like a shopping list of criticisms, but that's not what I'm intending to say here. If anything, I dare say it's quite the opposite. I feel like this song took the groundwork that was laid out by Cleopatra, that is, Azerbaijan's entry from last year, not literal Cleopatra, and tightened it up in all the right ways to maximise the impact this year. Now, if last year's song had successfully competed, I would be a bit more critical of that approach, but given that last year didn't get to happen, I dare say this is sufficiently different that it stands on its own. It's not plagiarising anything, it's not like a desperate copy because last year didn't get to happen. Plus, if last year did get to happen, I feel like this song probably wouldn't have been written. So it stands on its own, and also it stands for finding out once and for all how this flavour of song would have done when all was said and done. So I think it's forgivable. So what might people like about this song? Well, for once, let's start at the end with this one. The ending of this song is sort of a microcosmic demonstration of what I just said, the whole idea of iterating and improving on last year's ideas, in that, once again, just like the previous Azerbaijani entry, this song ends by going all hyper and intense. It amps up the energy and especially the percussion layer for one final impression-leaving explosion so that the song ends with a bang and makes sure you're paying attention. It worked to great effect last year, and I think this kind of works even better, because I feel like it's just as effective while being much less prone to causing hyperstimulation, or it's less overwhelming than the equivalent part in Cleopatra. I suppose that, in itself, is true of the whole song, just as effective but far less overwhelming in its execution. Efendi continues to bring strength and sass in a song about being strong and sassy, and this time around, that's put across, at least in the music video, with visuals on a much smaller scale, but I feel that it hits just as hard. In not so many words, this is a song about wielding power and femininity in equal measure, and the music video demonstrates that the lyrics aren't just a load of hot air. She has the presence and charisma to back those claims up. As for the composition itself, it kind of surprised me to learn that it was written by a predominantly Dutch team, as opposed to Azerbaijan, considering that the arrangement does sound very, very Caucasus-flavoured. Granted, I am from Britain, so I can only speak of how it sounds to me, and not the actual origins of some of the songwriting techniques or the instruments, so take what I say with a bit of salt, but like, there's a woodwind instrument in there that forms the basis of the hook, and that, to my ears, sounds like it's from generally that part of the world, but I couldn't pinpoint which country it's from, so I don't mean to cause any offence here. But more importantly, there's Azeri lyrics. There's lyrics in there that are not in English, but they are in the language of Azerbaijan, which I also want to sort of put forward here. That might be the most Azerbaijan sounding that Azerbaijan has ever been comfortable being at Eurovision, and we love to see it. You should be more proud of your culture, Azerbaijan. We love to see it. In fact, let's go a bit deeper on the Azeri language part. Yes, it is only a few words, but that's still infinity% more than we have ever had from Azerbaijan before outside of Junior Eurovision. And perhaps most importantly, it comes across effectively, in a catchy way, and it doesn't feel trivial. It's not just there for the sake of having some words in. The line is Yalandamen, Yanandamen, Yamandamen, which I believe translates to something like I'm a liar, I'm on fire, I'm the bad guy. Something like that. It's not just meaningless noise, it's not just a gimmick, it's an actual part of the song that fits cogently with the tone and doesn't seem forced just for the sake of having the language in there. Seriously, y'all, this is a pretty big step for Azerbaijan, and I applaud it, or I would if I had both of my hands free. Still, we've got to look at both sides of the song in order to play fair, and every country has to play fair. First up, just to circle back to something I said before, while I do think that the ending of this song is much less hyper-stimulating than the ending of Cleopatra, while still being highly effective, I have to point out that nevertheless it can still cause hyperstimulation in people who have auditory processing difficulties. This song doesn't do it on purpose to antagonize those people, and those people don't deliberately experience these things to antagonize the song. It's just a disconnect that can arise and can cause some people to have trouble fully enjoying it. That's all. And yes, it doesn't do it to the same degree as another song, but that doesn't mean, but that's a relative comparison. That doesn't mean this doesn't do it at all. So if you feel that way, that is fair enough. On a more obvious note, you might find this song to be too self-aware, plain and simple. The lyrics literally contain the line, just like Cleopatra, no fewer than 3 times. And yes, taken in a vacuum, that makes perfect sense. It fits within the story that the song is telling. But to those of us who have been following the contest, it can come across as a direct sort of nod to the camera to the effect of, yeah, we're basically copying a cancelled entry from last year, what are you gonna do about it? And that can be a bit of a turn-off for some people. Most viewers aren't going to make that connection on the night. They might not even remember that Cleopatra was a thing, mostly because the contest didn't happen, but I feel like they probably forget even if it had happened, because the average viewer isn't in quite as deep as you and I are, so I don't know, bear these things in mind. Now, one other thing that I think merits mentioning is the subject matter of the song itself. I can see both sides of this issue, but the short version is, Mata Hari was a real person. True, so was Cleopatra, but her story dates back thousands of years. Mata Hari, or Margaretha Hertoidezella to use her real name, which I probably just butchered because Dutch is difficult, was executed by a firing squad a mere 104 years ago. So some people might well find it to be insensitive that her name and story is being trivialized for the sake of a pop song about being a femme fatale. Of course, others may feel that enough time has passed that it's fair game, and that it's in honour of what she was best known for being good at, rather than just taking the idea of her and exoticizing it. It is very much a two-sided issue. I am not involved deeply enough to be able to have a fully informed opinion, and that's a valid stance to take as well. All I ask is that you think about it for yourself. If you feel like more research is needed, then by all means, go into that, but just think about it. I can understand if you fell one way or the other, or neither. I don't know. In any case, though, let's distill it down to some numbers, shall we? On the personal side of things, I'm agonised. I'll settle for a 9 out of 10. I'll be real here. This is honestly an absolute banger that I'm really on board with as a song. Bear in mind, this is taking the song in isolation with no acknowledgement of any surrounding outside factors, though I know there is a bit of controversy regarding a certain person who's involved with this song and the stuff they post on their Instagram page, and I know that there's a little bit of political investment there. I'm just putting all of that out of my mind. I don't know enough to comment, I don't want to get involved, and that has nothing to do with Eurovision, so... Anyway, the song is a little bit on the simple side, and it is a bit self-aware in its references to its predecessor from last year's cancelled contest, but it's still a solid just under 3 minutes of fun and energy that brings that Caucasus region spice in a non-trivialized way. And, of course, the languages buff in me is just happy to see Azerbaijan finally breaking the seal and giving us some of their native language for a change. Sometimes it's the little things, you know? Good on you, Azerbaijan. On the technical front, I think a high 9 is in order there as well. There's not much I can add to that other than acknowledging that it's a fun, energetic bop, and even if you don't understand the lyrics, it's still easy to connect with and dance along to. You can dance to the song even if you don't know what's going on. Efendi brings charisma and a plausible delivery of the words, and her backing dancers complete the look with choreography as slick and polished as the track itself. You might feel that the song is a bit too self-referential for its own good, what with its less than subtle mention of Cleopatra. You might feel that it can be a bit much, especially after its final minute. But on the whole, this is Azerbaijan doing what they do best at Eurovision. I dare say they can be happy to call it their entry this year. As responses to the cancellation of last year's contest go, though, yeah, no, this is another easy pass. You might view it as a weakness that this song's identity would be more or less non-existent without the foundation of last year's cancellation to build upon, what with, Cleopatra happening but not being able to compete, but I see it as an opportunity to demonstrate learning as a delegation, and that is something that the Azerbaijan delegation is actually really good at doing. I did a Patreon video about it, but far be it for me to plug in the middle of a video. What I mean is, Team Azerbaijan saw the public response to their entry last year and thought, well, let's give the people what they want because they couldn't have it last year. That entailed getting Efendi on board once again, which is the most important part, I would say, to getting that pass, but and looking through several candidate entries before settling on one that gave them the most chances to iterate and improve upon what they brought to the table last year. And hey, we finally got to hear their national language at the contest from Azerbaijan themselves, because technically Bulgaria did beat them to it in 2012, but nah, don't worry about that. It's a very welcome bonus in my eyes in any case, so as I said, good on you, Azerbaijan. It's baby steps, but it's progress. As for Efendi's odds of making the final, I mean, I've seen some people expressing doubts, but honestly I think this is as good as guaranteed. Not actually guaranteed, mind you, because it's Eurovision, anything can happen, but near enough to guaranteed that might as well be in my opinion. After all, Azerbaijan is known for bringing tightly focused 5-star stage shows, and so applying that to a song already as powerful and sassy as this, especially as a follow-up to the hype their previous entry generated, means that I think the televoters, for one, will show it plenty of love. As for the juries, I suspect it will get more than a fair amount of praise for its technical polish, even if the song isn't what we traditionally know of as being jury bait. What a shocker, a song can get jury points without specifically goading them into handing them over. The only potential stumbling block is that this song is in semi-final 1 along with several other female-led up-tempo bangers, so it will need to stand out in order to make its case, or so many people think. I think the song does have plenty of identity, so I don't think there's a huge risk of it getting lost in the shuffle, but I do acknowledge that there is a non-zero chance of it not qualifying, but as I said, I think when all's said and done, Azerbaijan is probably going to be performing again on Saturday, but that's just how I feel. As ever, I will throw it over to you lovely people, the voice of the people, because you are the people. Listen to the song for yourself. Let me know how you feel. If you feel like sharing your opinions, you don't have to share it. All I encourage you to do is think for yourself. In the meantime, Efendi, Team Azerbaijan, I wish you the very best of luck. You've got an absolute banger on your hands, and I look forward to seeing how you bring it to life on stage in May.